Welcome to Courtney on Health, heard exclusively, not exclusively, actually, it's exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. I like that word exclusively. It makes it seem more important. But anyway, we're down at the beach.
Because it's also on the manyshadesofgreen.com.
Right.
Not exclusively. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But anyway, Max, take it away.
So much for the opening of
Courtney,
this show.
At the beach, huh?
Courtney's at the beach. You're at the beach, and so I'm welcoming everyone to the beach with Courtney today. Yeah. To our little Zoomcast or big Zoomcast or series about how to get through the lingering COVID times, which lingering is the word to use. And we need some tips on nutrition and exercise that Courtney Gravanese will give us, because she's a registered dietitian and she has a master in science degree in nutrition and applied physiology. Love that word. She's an experienced nutritional and health consultant in the New York metro area and will help guide you on a path to wellness and health. So she's at the beach, which is awesome. I wish I could be on the beach. And I have a poem here. I'm paraphrasing the poem actually, by Lovina Silvia Chidi. It's called Down to the Beach. Down to the beach, where a chilly sea breeze blows. Let's have some fun in the red hot sun. Down to the beach, as never ceasing waves play across the shores. People happily play, dreading any raining downpour. Down to the beach, seagulls gliding in the air with screams and whistles, kids picking up shells and building stormy sandcastles. Down to the beach, where mostly good vibes flow. Down to the beach we go whilst there is still sun without snow. So yeah, that's what we want. Want to be down or under the boardwalk, down by the sea. But, we can also, you bring a lot of junky food sometimes to the beach, but I think wholesome foods right now can definitely help keep your hunger pains in check and keep you feeling better at the beach or anywhere. Yeah. So what can we take to the beach that is delicious yet healthy and will not spoil in the hot sun? I grew up in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn and spent most of my childhood Sundays to the left of the Lifeguard on Bay 6. My parents' clique of friends, at least 8 couples with kids in tow. That was a large group. Yeah, it was big time. Would meet to enjoy the sun, the summer breezes, and the cold surf. Everyone brought something. Every family brought something. Sandwiches, chips, pineapple slices, frozen grapes. That was way back then. Lemonade, cookies, and more. If we were lucky, though, we can get Hirsch's knishes or Mrs. Stahl's knishes. Those were like 2 major wonderful places to get that. And if we were even luckier, we'd walk down the boardwalk. It's a little bit of a walk, but we go to Nathan's. So that I always look forward to that. So with summer still in kind of high gear, hopefully, what food can we take on our trips to the beach to keep us healthy and happy? Courtney has some great info on what foods can enhance your trip to the shore. Yeah. So give us some intro into the beach eats.
Okay. Courtney, before we get into the food, where are you?
I am on Long Beach Island in New Jersey. Many beautiful beaches all along the eastern seaboard, but in particular, I've been coming down here for years. So it's a favorite spot. It's very low key and lots of families, and it's a great, beautiful place. So I highly recommend it if you've never been here before. So yeah, beach eats for today's topic. And although, it's really whatever's convenient and whatever you and your family will eat. But let's kick it off with some hydration requirements, because although yesterday was a little cool, this whole week coming up is supposed to be pretty hot, I think, in our whole area. So just a reminder about, your fluid needs, hydration needs, and why foods are going to be important to meet those needs, particularly among children. Because sometimes getting them to drink fluids is not as easy as one might think. So the general rule of how much fluid we need each day Many of us have heard, probably maybe both of you as well, the 8-ounce glasses, so 64 ounces of fluids a day. That's really on the low end, and that's really the guideline for, I would say, children. And then it moves upward to, upward to about 100, a little over 100 ounces a day of fluids. So keeping in mind that, of course, water is best, but as you can see from some of the foods that I have here, and we're going to talk about those, sometimes the best way to sneak in those fluids is through foods that we eat. So we'll talk about that. In particular, you really want to be careful among very little children and babies and the elderly. Their thirst mechanism is not what it should be. They lose fluids, particularly infants. They have greater surface area, so they lose a lot more fluid. They can't speak. So you really have to just look at crude things like urine volume and urine color. I feel like I can never get around talking about poop and pee, but it's a great way, particularly among babies, to make sure that they're drinking enough. How many diapers are you changing? And what's the color of the urine? Older adults can obviously tell you, how they're feeling and can verbalize, but babies cannot. So you want to make sure they're drinking, in particular, the fluids that they need. In hot, humid weather, our very cool air conditioning that our bodies have, which is perspiration, doesn't work as well as it should. So in dry heat, so you perspire, right? That perspiration comes to the surface of your skin, and then your body cools itself by that water, that sweat, that perspiration evaporating. When it's really humid outside, our bodies can't do a very good job of that. So our air conditioning doesn't work as well. So that's why you hear when it's very hot and humid on those days to make sure you're paying a lot of attention, maybe not do as much activity outside because of our inability to use that air conditioning as well as it should.
Right.
So
when it's
The
very
Olympic,
humid.
hold on.
Yeah,
The Olympics they had in Tokyo, it was the hottest Olympics, and a lot of the athletes were really having heat issues. I mean, they had to move up the marathons earlier in the day because a marathon runner, talk about perspiration. Are drinks like the energy drinks something you should drink to keep your electrolytes balanced, or is that not a good thing?
No, I generally think, as we've discussed before, for most of us, for using it as a sports drink per se, not really necessary unless you're training for an event. So exercising greater, more than an hour, more than an hour and a half. However, all bets are off when it comes to getting you or your parent or your kids to drink fluids. So if they will not drink plain water, and the only way to get them to drink is to throw a little sugar in it or offer them a little Gatorade or one of the other sports drinks, then you got to go there because it's all about getting the fluid in them. Obviously athletes and people, my niece is actually training for an Ironman type event. And she was already out, she biked, she ran this morning. So somebody like that absolutely needs to replenish in this heat with something that's going to offer a little bit of potassium and sodium and a little bit of sugar. So that for sure. But it shouldn't be your go-to, right? I wouldn't say offer that first, particularly in kids. Try with water, maybe seltzers, a little bit of, you can always do seltzer and water with a little squeeze of fresh lemon, fresh lime, maybe a splash of orange juice or cranberry juice or a juice that they like. That's definitely a way to go. And it's much more cost effective than necessarily buying some of those sports drinks.
But by the way, if you're watching the Olympics, there was an event, I think it was the 1500 meter, where the woman who won it sort of, as she crossed the finish line, collapsed, and she was yelling, "Water, water." I don't know if you've seen that. And it was probably like a minute or so until someone came out with water and ice. But she was almost like in torture.
Yeah, that's
So
that. You
it's
don't want to ever
super
get to that.
So, for many of us, again, you got to pay attention to it. If you guys have infants, you've got elderly, you got to really pay attention for ourselves. But a lot of those fluid needs can be met through some of the foods that we're eating here, and they absolutely are fantastic beach eats, right? So let's talk about portability and food safety for a second. If you're going to a sandy beach, you got to be a little careful what you're bringing. because otherwise you're going to end up with a big bite full of sand whilst you're eating whatever lunch food or breakfast food that you're eating. So sometimes breaking it down into small bite-sized pieces. So what I have here, these are just roll-ups. This is just tortilla. You can use corn, you can use flour tortilla, and turkey, ham, whatever you will eat or whatever your kids will eat, and roll it into these little bite-sized eats. Okay, so when you're packing them up in the kitchen, okay, you can put them in a little container. So roll them, pack them. Obviously bring hand gel to the beach with you, so your hands are always going to stay clean. It stays contained, it stays out of the sand, it's easier to eat. You want to make sure these foods are kept cold. So in the absence of any kind of cooler or ice packs and things like that, generally, if it's not beastly hot out, food is safe outside for about 2 hours. If the heat is higher, then let's say 85, certainly 90 degrees, that window really shortens down to only about an hour. So you really want to keep food safe. After that, that's when bacteria tends to rapidly multiply and put you at risk for foodborne illness. So you want to keep them safe and contained, certainly keep them portable and easy to eat, but use those cooler packs, use a cooler, and keep them cold. In that nice cold temperature. So, but this is easy. They're easy to make. They're inexpensive. It keeps you from having to running out to a deli, and it keeps the sand out of your food. So roll-ups, again, it could be anything in there. Peanut butter and jelly, or just peanut butter. Very easy. It's that you have to worry less. I don't want to say you don't have to worry at all about food safety, because everything really in extreme heat has the risk of developing those microbes that can make us sick. But peanut butter and jelly is a super easy, great beach eat. Any kind of bread that you want, maybe to make it easier to eat for if you've got littles on board, down at the beach with you, because they are just, little menaces when it comes to getting sandy all over the place. You're going to want to cut that into small pieces, like maybe almost bite-sized pieces, so it becomes a food that they can eat with their fingers, clean fingers. So small pieces like that.
What about mayo? It seems to get a bad rap in the heat, and like egg salad or anything with mayo. What's with the mayo issue?
Yeah, I don't. I think it was because maybe a while ago, foods that had mayonnaise on them were getting blamed for food, bouts of foodborne illness. But the reality is it's a little bit of a myth, Maxine.
Mm-hmm.
Any food can be prone to foodborne, illness. In fact, some would argue that because mayonnaise got some preservatives in it, it actually might prevent a food. And remember, there's usually an acid base in mayonnaise. So between the preservative that might be in it or just the acid base that's in it, it might be actually, protective in some respects. So I don't tell people if there's no mayonnaise on it, you're free to go. I tell them all foods, you got to be careful. Certain foods like fruits, fresh veg, are a little bit less of a risk, but anything with protein in it is going to be something certainly at higher risk. But as an alternative, you can do things like, if you're really concerned, you can certainly do hummuses, bean dips, spreads, and things like that. But again, I don't like people to think, oh, it's bean dip, it's not, there's no mayonnaise, I'm not going to get sick. Just make sure you stick to that window, keep those foods cold, keep them in a cooler, use those ice packs.
Another policy for that is I have for years have this big ice chest. Pour things in, pour ice over it, and generally it keeps well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The coolers these days are amazing. So they really do work well. And, even if you don't have ice packs, just get some ice, throw it in a plastic Ziploc bag, and that will serve as a nice ice pack as well.
I remember when we really did it, we did dry ice. That lasts forever.
Yeah, well, that's a little trickier sometimes for people to get, but yeah, that's certainly, an option.
But the big thing is don't hold it in your hand because it burns.
Definitely not. We don't want to do that. So a fun sort of spin on things to people bring chips and pretzels, and these are all fine foods. People like them. They're easy. As long as the seagulls don't get them. My son, poor guy, had a seagull swoop by one year when we were here and took the chips right out of his hand. But I digress. Back to food. So, okay. So bean dips are great. Again, you can make them ahead, put them in a sealable container, put them in a cooler. I like for the beach because it's easier to hold stuff. If you're going to do chips, the scoops, the ones that have a little bit of a, it's almost like a spoon when it comes to bean dip. So if you can see that, it's got like a little bowl. So it can hold things like this bean dip. Now this happens to be black bean, corn, and cilantro. I'm going to ultimately put a little bit of olive oil on there, some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of lime juice. And it makes a wonderful alternative and I'd say a nutrition-packed, protein-packed, legume-packed alternative to just traditional salsa. Salsa's fine, but you know, if you're trying to make more of a meal out of some of the snacks that you're bringing down to the beach, this would be a fantastic way to go. Plus, we're in that fabulous corn season. So for those of you who don't, I mean, you get ears of corn, okay? You can steam them, boil them, and I'm sure many people know how to do this, but you want a nice sharp knife, and you're just going to slice down really close to the end of the cob and just pull those corn cobs off of, the corn kernels off of the cob. It's fresh, delicious. You get carotenoids from all of that incredible corn, that yellow gold color in the corn, and it makes a fantastic, you know, very protein packed, fresh with the cilantro in it, alternative to use, like I said, instead of salsas. So that's a great choice. Cucumbers. We're talking about all those foods that are super high in fluid. Remember we said we're trying to meet those fluid needs. Cucumbers, excellent. You slice them up, you put them in a container like this, put them in that cooler that we spoke about. They're refreshing. They contribute to your hydration needs. They have that nice crunch, so they're very satisfying. Fresh watermelon slices. Again, you need some containers to keep these, but what better summer treat than nice ice cold, you know, watermelon. You can either do boats like this, or if you're looking for an easy transport where you just use, you know, small forks to out of a container, you can cut them up into cubes and transport them that way. Super fresh, lycopene packed watermelon. You know, I always like to talk about those things that are in food that are so healthy for us, but it is one of the top 5 high water content foods that we can eat anytime, but since it's in season, particularly in the summer. Peaches. Okay, these are very portable. Things like apples, it's not apple season, so I'm trying to really talk more seasonal things, but peaches are an easy, portable, clean them before you go, maybe put a little bit of protective, either paper towel or something around them so that if it does bang into something, it doesn't break the skin. But these are easy, portable fruits to bring to the beach. Grapes, Maxine, you mentioned grapes, frozen grapes, absolutely. Some people like them frozen, some people don't, but they're super easy, very refreshing. That cold, high moisture content is a great, great beach snack. You know, even if you're not using them for hydration needs, they're just a wonderful, fresh snack you can bring down to the beach with you. So almost any fruit, really, but I'm talking about those high moisture content fruits and veg. Peppers, most people don't think about peppers as a high moisture content food, but they are one of the top, you know, water content. So, you know, maybe you don't want to bring a whole pepper down to the beach like this, but clean it, slice them up, put them in a container or in a plastic bag, throw them in that cooler that we're talking about. Maybe have hummus dips or any kind of other bean dip as something that you can dip at the beach, and you're good to go.
A question, is there any difference between green pepper and red pepper?
In terms of the sweetness, there is. It's generally the same plant. It's just how much exposure to the sun it's getting. So if you leave a green pepper on the plant, ultimately it's going to turn red. The red peppers, orange peppers, yellow peppers are sweeter in flavor, and that carotenoid development increases as it gets to that color.
You forgot the ghost peppers.
What's that? It's so funny. I had never heard of ghost peppers before, but in the last 48 hours. My brother talked about when he was visiting ghost peppers. My niece was talking about ghost peppers. I'm like, how did I miss ghost peppers? I don't know.
There's been a lot of stuff about ghost peppers and people daring each other and then winding up in the hospital. All sorts of really, it's the Carolina. I forgot. I mean, it's crazy. It's just nuts. And there's different degrees on the Scoville scale of how hot it is. And there's actually a YouTube thing or something. Some guy like dared celebrities to eat like the hottest sauce. And I don't get it. It's like,
Yeah.
burn your mouth out on TV. Good idea,
And I think the shishitos, I forget what the number is. Maybe it's 1 out of every 100 or something like that. So they're fabulous. You roast them and they get charred and they're a great snack. But I think if you're, every once in a while, you can get a super spicy one. And it'll really, I don't know if it's as hot as some of these other ones, not habanero hot, but hot enough.
Right. Well, it's hot enough at the beach, so stay away from the hot peppers.
So it would not be a beach trip without a little talk about a little, fun cocktail, right? So in keeping with the theme of using seasonal ingredients and what's available right now, you guys familiar with a mojito?
Mm-hmm.
This guy isn't.
You're not, because you're like a straight whiskey guy, right? You don't want no girly drinks, eh?
No, actually at the beach is nothing like a bottle of wine, a bottle of beer.
Yeah,
bottle of beer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here is the thing.
Yes, every to each their own, everybody's allowed to, but since we have mint here, brought from my sister's garden, and we got the ingredients, you basically muddle, which is just a fancy word for crush up with whatever you have handy, back of a spoon, if you have something like a reamer, you can use that. You're going to muddle that mint with sugar and almost create like a paste. If you don't want to do that, you can also create, last time we were together, I believe we talked about making a simple syrup. So remember, that is 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of water, you boil it up, let it cool, store it in your refrigerator, and that becomes your sweetener for a lot of these fun summery drinks that you can have. So you muddle that mint, you get that with some sugar, or use simple syrup and mash up the mint in that simple syrup. You add fresh lime juice. So you just get the juice of several limes. I would say as long as you're going through the work of juicing limes, you might as well juice a bunch and store it in your refrigerator if you're making mojitos for more than one. And let's face it, it's always more fun when you're cocktailing with other folks. So mash that mint, get that sugar, add that lime juice, and then you're just topping it off with seltzer. Maybe some ice in there. And I'm so sorry you guys can't be here to sample with me, but as you know, I need to do quality assurance. So I'm just gonna...
Yeah, sure.
I'm coming over.
And as suspected, it is delicious. So
that's
so
a good
there really
thing.
is no wrong for any of the. Oh, did I forget the most important thing?
I think you did. I didn't see you pour it.
Oh my gosh. Well, no, I have a pre-made one over here. So
is that it?
Oh my gosh, I forgot the most important thing, the rum. There it is.
I picture you doing the Lucy type of thing, I love Lucy.
Vitamin and Benjamin mojitos.
Oh, I didn't put any rum in this. Oh yeah, I did.
Right.
In general, you want 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce per, that's the serving of alcohol in each drink. You can certainly go lighter than that, whatever.
Lighter or more?
But you could also do that as well, but I'm trying to keep this on the healthier side, so we're not going to.
But you know what you forgot?
What did I forget?
Your little paper umbrella that goes.
Oh, you know what?
It's okay.
Originally, I'm from New York, and we used to go to Puerto Rico a lot, and just sit down with the tropical drinks in Puerto Rico.
Right. You have to have the umbrella, huh?
You have to have the umbrella, otherwise.
Otherwise, it's not going to work.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll take it either way.
Yeah. So lots of fun options. Again, it's what you like, but I would encourage, again, portability. making it easy to eat. If you've got, even if you don't have kids, it's sometimes just super easy to eat things that don't necessarily require, a fork or a spoon or utensils, but making sure your hands are clean, add some variety. Always try and sneak in some legumes and some beans, fresh herbs this time of year. Think hydrating foods throughout the day. Some of the ones we mentioned today, obviously oranges, grapefruits. You mentioned pineapple slices, Maxine, earlier.
Mhm.
Very hydrating foods, jam-packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So those are always going to be a good bet.
Well, it's an important thing also at the beach to drink, even if you're not thirsty, because I remember when I was doing marathon running, they always say, drink before you're thirsty. Don't wait till you get thirsty. Keep hydrated.
Definitely, definitely. So, if you're a water drinker, certainly drink as much water that you can. But if you are not, and it's, you're not somebody who's putting down, who likes the flavor of water, in some cases, these foods are going to be a better alternative to water, because you're going to either eat more of it and then, of course, get more water from them. So remember, you're always going to get fluids from the foods that you eat as well. And I think people forget that. They think that they have to put back, 100 ounces of just plain water. It's fine if you do that, but keep in mind that a lot of our fluid needs are met through the foods that we eat.
My dog is snoring. I'm sorry. I hope it didn't get picked up. We're thinking of the beach and this dog is on the bed going.
Well, it's on the beach. It's just getting hot. Now, they also say you should not drink that much when you're at the beach. It has an adverse effect on your body.
You mean alcohol?
You mean alcohol? For sure. Well, it's that's dehydrating.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think as in many cases, moderation. I would never tell anybody don't. I mean, here we're talking about having a fun rum mojito, right? So, I think you got to embrace the fun in life, right? So, bring a couple down to the beach with you, imbibe a little bit, but don't go overboard, and make sure you're staying, like I said, well hydrated. In addition to that. And you should be okay. Life should be enjoyed.
And now for us older folk, do we have to drink more, at the beach?
So you want to try and meet that, if you can, that 100 ounces a day. Remember, that's inclusive of the fluids in the foods that you eat. So for some, not that you're a senior, but for some people,
yeah,
I'm still a junior.
That's right.
It's harder because the thirst mechanism doesn't function quite as well. So you and I and Maxine might say, when you're thirsty and you've got that cue to drink. And oftentimes, particularly in senior citizens and the elderly, we've got my dad down here. So it's like, you got to make sure that you encourage that kind of fluid intake.
Yeah. And I find out, at least as I'm getting older, with the humidity, it's sort of, when it's very humid, it's like my skin can't breathe. It's sort of like the sweat leaves a layer on my skin.
Yeah, so like at the top of our time, that's exactly what happens, is that your body's air conditioning can't work as well as it could in very humid weather, because that evaporative process that is happening that helps cool us isn't happening, and that layer of perspiration is staying on your skin, so your body can't cool itself. So in essence, Malcolm, that is what's happening. It's like it's a layer of perspiration that's just staying there, but that's by that layer staying there, your body can't cool itself.
And it just reminds me of what you're talking about, climate change. It's the layers on top. It's not letting the planet get air conditioned.
Yeah, well, we're seeing that report today, but just think though that we won Olympic gold in beach volleyball. And so if you go to the beach and there's a nice place to play ball, go do it, but make sure you have plenty of water or something else, and do fun stuff on the beach, frisbee, ball, have a good time.
Keep frozen. You can put water bottles, and if you're really sort of at a loss of, like, I don't have any ice packs, freeze water bottles for a few hours in your freezer or overnight. Stick them in your cooler or your whatever your bag that you're doing, and It'll defrost throughout the day. You'll have nice icy cold water to use. And it serves as a cooler, as an ice pack for your cooler.
Awesome.
Well, you as a runner, Courtney, I'm not sure about the Max, but I remember
That's funny. Go ahead.
when I used to share a house out in Fire Island in the morning and I was into my running, I'd go out at the beach when it was low tide and it was very hard sand, and do my running like 3-4 miles one way, 3-4 miles back again.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when the tide would come in, I would sort of raise my knees up high and splash. And it felt so great. And then go for a nice glass of water or Gatorade.
There you go.
My body felt so good. Well, I would get the runner's high. It would feel so good. I love your food. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, I'm seeing the watermelon, and I have some fresh organic watermelon in my refrigerator, and that's the first thing I'm going to, because I think we're kind of ready to wrap. No?
We have a whole 22 seconds left.
Oh, well then, that's it.
First time that we
Then
haven't gotten
it's time to say aloha, mahalo, and
It's
thanks for
time to-
joining us for Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, which is Courtney on Health, on Instagram at CLG Wellness, her website, CourtneyGravenese.com. For more shows, go to malcolmpresents.com and the many shades of green.com. And just remember, Courtney on Health, smart, sound nutrition, strong, safe fitness. And I want to come and have some of that salad now because it looks delicious.
By the way, Courtney, did you have room for me and my wife for the next few days?
Sorry, the inn is full.
The inn is full, but the food is coming along. So anyway, we will catch you all next time. Enjoy the rest of this summer month, and then we'll see you next week.
We'll see you back in.
Have a great week, guys.
We'll see you back in Chappaqua Monday.
See you there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Watch out for a bad suntan. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.